Hello, everybody. My name is Gary Gomes. It's wonderful to be with you again. As you can see, I'm fading in and out of the background. It's kind of late at night, and I'm wearing a shirt which doesn't blend too well with the Zoom background, but say hello, say hello to you. The Okay, so every week I come to you talking about Vedic astrology in particular and astrology's impact on the world. And on all of us and also on location. Uh, it's essentially, I look at the chart and try to pinpoint where things are going to happen. It's a less labor-intensive way of looking at the world situation than, let's say, looking at countries' individual charts. Although I do that as well. And just to give you my background, which I've given you many times before, I've been a working astrologer for 32 years. I've also been interested in astrology since I was a young boy. And so not that many years, as you can tell. And I've been also, I've also served time, poor choice of words, as the vice president and then the president of the Council of Vedic Astrology. And I'm also proficient, I've also lectured in a variety of environments around the world, and both virtually, and I've also worked at Kepler College and at the American College of Vedic Astrology, and for my good friend Roland DeLoof at Dyra Academy, and a variety of folks for whom I have engaged in service Saptarishi astrology. I've written, I had articles published in Mountain Astrologer and CTR Journal, the American Council of Vedic Astrology magazine, and a variety of other places. Excuse me, I have a small itch over here. And and I've traveled to England and Turkey to speak on Vedic astrology, and I've spoken virtually in other countries. So I've been around for a few years. I'm kind of a fixture in Vedic astrology. What kind of a fixture, I don't know, maybe a wall fixture, but I still contribute to Vedic astrology. I'm still teaching, I'm still active in Vedic astrology, and I'm continuing to work on a book, and I'm also continuing to work on my school, which actually is officially open. People can contact me at 508-525-0001, either through text or through calling me. For more information about the school, you can also email me at garygomesg@gmail.com or neivas@comcast.net. That latter email address is not as reliable as the Gmail address. That's Gary Gomes with the letter G, then the letter G, at gmail.com. And for those of you who are tuning into the channel for the first time, I'd like to encourage you to subscribe because we want to get the subscription numbers up so we can do a little bit better production than this and do a lot of fancy graphics and things like that. And also so we can do this more of a full-time kind of an occupation where I can come to you more often than once a week with these broadcasts. So I want to thank Great New Everett Cable Television for giving me the chance for actually getting me started on this, and or for giving me the platform for this, and also YouTube, of course, for allowing me to post these videos freely And I know a bunch of other things. I know a lot about remedial measures in astrology. I know a lot about, not a lot, I know something about remedial measures in astrology. I know some of the more interesting subsets of Vedic astrology and even Western astrology. And so it's just, I'm here. I've been around for a long time. I still do readings. I still accept students, one-on-one students. And I look forward to hearing from you. So without further ado, let's go on to the subject at hand. So let's look at the chart for this week. It's an interesting week. Actually, we're on the threshold of a relatively good period. So I'll show you what that is in a second. Or at least a relatively clear period. Let's put it that way. So I'm going to stop the share and go back to the chart. Okay. Because it's been my experience. We get a little screen of black first of all, then when we do it a second time, and I'll do it a third time just to be sure it comes through. Okay. This is from hard experience with Zoom. And this is a little bit late. I normally post on the weekends, but I've been up to my eyeballs helping somebody who's, or trying to help somebody who's very ill. So this is not a Saint Award or anything like that. I'm not looking for aggrandizement. I'm just explaining why I'm late. So let's look at the chart. First of all, we have, so this is, oh, and by the way, anything you're going to start this month coming up, and especially on Mondays is considered a very, very, very good day, especially after July 15th, very, very good day, because it's Shravana month. And Shravana is considered to be Vishnu's sun sign. And essentially Mondays in particular, doing anything on Mondays over the next 4 to 5 weeks is considered very good. It's considered blessed. Also, the full moon this month is what's called a Purnima, a Guru Purnima moon, and is considered to be a very auspicious moon. I'll talk some more about it next week because we're still a couple of weeks away from that. But it's essentially the times when you get the blessings of your teacher. So basically, or you get the indirect blessings of God if you believe in God. Even if you don't believe in God, you get the blessings of knowledge. And basically, it's a time, especially over the next few weeks or so, is considered to be a very good time to undertake new activities, not this week, but into next week, and to start new projects, especially after the 30th. They'll be stable, they'll last a long time, they'll be good, they'll be fruitful, and that period will last for roughly about a month and a half, and you'll start to see some really interesting things happening. We should watch out for the end of the summer. A fellow astrologer of mine, Joni Petrie, has wisely warned against the conjunction of Mars and Rahu in a lunar mansion called Bharani, but that really doesn't happen until around mid-August or so, and that's a kind of a destructive nakshatra, and essentially it can create warlike states or a lot of animosity. I think what we're going to see towards the end of the summer is really, and I've been drilling through on this theme for the past few months, we're going to see a lot of anger, a lot of ire focused on governments all around the world. We're not going to see mass uprisings or a case where the world is going to, where people all around the world are going to decide to overthrow their governments, although that may happen in a few cases. But you will see a lot of, and this is sort of like what happened with the Roe versus Wade amendment is really is an extraordinary Roe versus Wade Supreme Court decision, excuse me, not amendment, is an extreme example of the cultural conflict that's been going on in the United States really over the past 60 years. For those who want change and for those who don't want change. And I believe, personally, I believe in a woman's right to choose. This is a personal belief. I'm just saying that flat out. But there is another group which believes that abortion is murder. That's there's no other way to put it. So these are two strongly held moral positions. They're not, and I'm not siding with one side or another when I say we're going to have like a conflict over belief systems like that over the next few years. And it is going to get violent. I mean, I think there were some rumors of an assassination, well, there was an actual assassination attempt on a Supreme Court justice. Um, an extremely unsuccessful one. And there are also demonstrations going on as I'm speaking right now about this. And I think these are going to continue into the summer over this and other areas. It won't just be, so nobody's happy right now. I haven't seen the United States this singularly unhappy since the late 1960s. Now, some of you who were around, or put it this way, I've never seen it reflected in the media quite so much. I think what happens is media is a reflection, but it's sort of a funhouse reflection of, so when you go into a funhouse and you see all those distorted mirrors, and the media in the United States in particular is very influenced by Rahu, so it's a little bit of a distortion. It's more than a little bit of a distortion, it's an exaggeration. And so we never get, quote unquote, a calm telling of an issue. Everything has to be, I'm trying to think of the right words to say. Everything has to be a crisis. Now that doesn't mean that real crises don't exist. Okay, so I'm not saying that, but everything has to be a crisis. Everything has to be about this is the end. This is we'll never be able to recover from this. And certainly things do change and feel like they are recoverable. But basically, anything in any conflict, in any issue of disagreement, is usually the person who quits, who loses. Okay, so it's and even Paramahamsa Yogananda, who was a great teacher from India, said the boxer who wins is the boxer that says to himself, just one more punch. And I think that's why it's easy to get discouraged over something that you thought was established law. For people on the on the pro-life side of the equation, for them, they just never gave up. They never stopped fighting to get this in. And essentially, both sides, and this is not meant to offend either side, both sides are depending on the courts to make what's essentially a moral decision. And I think that, so I don't have the answer. I'm not, that's why you can see me kind of flipping around. I don't have the answer to this, but there's a Saturn aspect on Mars where we want everything to be perfect. We want everything to be exactly the way we want it to be. And that's kind of brittle. It's kind of, it forces people to be more aggressive. Also, Mars is in the same sign. It just crossed over into Aries. So everybody's a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more forthright. It was right on the edge of Pisces and along with Jupiter. So it's essentially, and Jupiter is the rule of law. It's in Pisces, which is more of a spiritual matters will take precedence over worldly matters. Principles will take precedence over practicality. And I think what you're going to see over the next few months is a lot of clashing principles. Now, keep something in mind. We are moving into a position where if you look at Venus and Mercury, Mercury's around 8 degrees away from being in Gemini, which is really nice. It's a great position. Venus will still be in Taurus when that hits. Mars will be in its own sign of Aries, and Jupiter and Saturn will be in their own sign of Pisces and Capricorn, respectively. This is kind of rare, okay? It's not incredibly rare, but since Saturn takes around 30 years to, or at least roughly around 28 to 32 years to complete a cycle in a chart, it's kind of rare to see Saturn and Jupiter in their own signs at the same time. And I think one of the things that this portends for us is Saturn is going to aspect Jupiter pretty soon. So right now, Saturn's just hanging out to Aquarius. After July 2nd, it will go back into Capricorn. That'll bring more practicality to the morals debate, to the debate that's going on right now. And again, like I said, I'm not taking sides on this. I'm just describing the phenomenon that's happening. Women are represented usually by Venus and the Moon and Mercury, and since both these planets are behind the Sun, it seems like they're losing right now. So that doesn't necessarily mean they'll be losing forever. So the Moon is about to, within really a matter of minutes, is going to enter Gemini. That'll increase the conversation, that'll increase talkativeness, that'll increase willingness to communicate. Venus will be in Taurus, and so within about a week, you'll see sort of a change in demeanor. And actually, that'll be both good and bad because more people will be willing to act on their beliefs. Mars and Rahu, from what I've seen, tends to give an almost reckless pursuit of adventure. So it'll give what I would call a lot of posturing, a lot of macho behavior. Okay, and it's in the sign connected with government, so you may see governments starting to be more aggressive and more dictatorial, at least for a couple of months. And it'll act quickly to resolve issues. So I'm not necessarily saying that it will be martial law per se, but I am saying you'll see if there are any uprisings or any revolts or even demonstrations will be dealt with more harshly than normal. Um, Jupiter's placement over here, Saturn aspecting Jupiter, it does sort of favor a kind of a return to order. Now, as you go through the summer months, when Mars goes conjunct Rahu, that may turn deadly. So you'll have to be careful really from around mid-August to around September. But right now, things look actually relatively interesting. People are protesting, they're dissatisfied. And I think one of the things you're going to see is you're going to see a lot of pressure for change. Now, this has absolutely, the way I see it, has absolutely nothing to do with the outer planets. It all has to do with Mars and Rahu. And I think also there's this anticipation that Jupiter is going to be in Rahu's sign next year, or in the sign that Rahu is placed in right now, excuse me. And that'll actually cause real change. It'll actually cause what I would call established change or governmental change. And so you'll see a lot more emphasis on individual liberty. You'll see a lot more emphasis on, and like I say, and oddly enough, I still think the extremes on both sides are going to come together at some point. It may seem impossible right now, but I think really the enemy is the middle. And especially in the United States, which has a Rahu Mahadashiva, I think that's true around the world. And we're seeing problems not only in the United States, we're seeing problems in China, we're seeing problems in Russia, where there seems to be a general dislike of the war in the Ukraine. You're seeing it in even in Europe, where I think it was, I can't remember which country it was, but one country was in favor of Finland joining NATO, but not Sweden. Which seems like a bizarre distinction to make, but that was what I read in one place. England's having its own problems, of course, and there are scandals in the Far East in certain countries. And also, I mean, there are scandals everywhere, wherever you look, but that's Rahu and Aries. You'll see a lot of government scandals. And there's also a lot of coverage right now on the, oh God, well, the insurrection, well, the Trump, the January 6th incident, I'll just call it that, the January 6th incident. The January 6th incident is being essentially eclipsed by things like Roe v. Wade. So I find this kind of interesting because they have this, there's this loaded gun they've been wanting to shoot for a long time, and then a Supreme Court case comes up, which, although tied to the former president, because it's his Supreme Court nominees that voted to help come down with the decision, is actually taking away from coverage of the hearings. So it's just fascinating. I think one of the things that you'll see oftentimes is when you have news cycles which are sensationalized or which there's been a big build-up to, and then something really dramatic or emotional that really grabs people. So the January 6th insurrection, I hate to speak for everybody. I definitely don't speak for everybody. But the January 6th insurrection didn't hit everyone. Roe v. Wade is an extraordinarily emotional issue for a lot of people. And I think that that's going to be a more important buzzer. Inflation is an extraordinarily emotional issue for a lot of people. How are you going to support your families if the dollar, and fear of recession is an extraordinarily emotional issue, because that's usually the United States makes decisions about its leadership based on economic reasons. I've never seen an impeachment, let's say, or any kind of action, or any kind of action against a sitting president succeed unless we've been in some kind of economic crisis. And that happened with Nixon. That also happened with Bush, and that also with George H.W. Bush, although there was some impeachment activity going on with him. And that also happened during Donald Trump's occupancy of the White House. They were both, all three were essentially, they had a coinciding underlying economic catastrophe, which was also working at the same time as these high crimes and misdemeanors were occurring. So that either cost them an election or cost them their position. So I think you need both. I think you need both problems to manifest in order for, at least in the United States, for something serious to happen. And right now, Biden's the sitting president, so he's going to be blamed for the economy, not Donald Trump. And that may or may not be fair, but that's really usually the way it works. So let's look over here at the chart just quickly, because I've been rambling way too much about politics, and my apologies to folks. So Saturn-Mars aspect, and Jupiter is in the fourth house. So there's this strong belief in institutional integrity that the ethic has to be more important than the practical application of it. So that's where you're getting a lot of these rich interpretations from the court. And the court's ideological bias is what they call strict constructions. That is, whatever's not written in the Constitution can't be inferred. It has to be actually stated. And so what happens is you have this Venus Moon Mercury conjunction right down here, and it seems like it's losing just a little bit of energy, not because people aren't angry at it, but because they know they're going to have to go and do something else rather than either impeach court members or have other trials, but the court works in very slow ways. In terms of inflation, again, inflation, as long as Jupiter's in Pisces and as long as Saturn is withholding products, that inflation is going to be present. Saturn is essentially stingy. When it's in its own sign, it's very stingy. So those people who don't believe that can look at people like Barack Obama presided over a recession. He didn't cause it, but he has Saturn and Jupiter in his first house. People like, so there are just too many leaders who came in, and Jimmy Carter has Saturn in the first house. There are just too many leaders that presided over recessions that has strong Saturns. Joe Biden has Saturn in the seventh house, at least if the chart is correct. So I think a lot of these things have to do with who's also in the occupancy of the chart but they'll generally tend to match the cycle. And we're about another year before the United States is out of a Saturn cycle. And like it or not, the United States economy affects the world economy. It's just that simple because we're the largest economy in the world. The government printing money actually has very little to do with this. This is a supply and demand inflation. So people want things and they're not getting it, and there are kinks in the supply chain that won't be straightened out until at least early 2023. And hopefully by that time we're probably going through, at least astrologically, we're going through a mild recession right now because Saturn is so strong. Okay. But I think at least from the chart, there's hope that we'll come out of this in one piece by April of next year. Inflation will still continue roughly for about another couple of years, to be truthful. And again, it's that stubbornness, it's that persistence in pursuing economic policies which tend to heat up the economy rather than cool it down. And there's always a danger that if you put on the brakes too strongly, you'll have a major worldwide recession. But on a happier note, personally, we are going to have much more clarity over the next 2 to 3 months. And I think you'll actually see, but again, you'll actually probably see more violence and more issues connected with guns. But there'll be a lot of panic connected with guns as well. Okay, so let's look at the Mars and Rahu is also a nifty little combination for earthquakes because Mars aspects K2 in this combination. So let's look at the locality page. Special. All right. I need to go to the time and space page. Oh, okay. All right, kids. All right. So this is, I'm going to stop and share and then start it again. And one of the advantages I have, maybe not over other astrologers, but over well, it's maybe not an advantage. I've seen a lot happen. I'm close to 70 years old. I've seen a lot happen over the past, and I've been paying attention since I was younger than 10. And I've seen a lot of disruptions happen in the world. So this isn't a new phenomenon. But is this going to be a big recession? I still don't think so. Okay. All right. So the first place we're looking for where Mars attacks really is Hawaii. Okay, I realize that was a copyright infringement. I'll try to work through that, but and again, some problems with violence in Hawaii, some problems with excessive fire, and Jupiter's over here in the Aleutian Islands. It's really not going to affect anything all that much, but this Mars combination over Hawaii doesn't look good. It looks like it'll be a little bit of a violent time in Hawaii too. The other line that's running down here, the line that's running down here is a Rahu line running over California on the West Coast, especially near San Francisco and up through Oregon, and that'll create a lot of disruption and panic around Sacramento or around San Francisco. Okay. and that goes all the way up through Montana and into Utah and all the way into the western part of Canada. So this is going to be kind of an interesting Nevada, California, kind of an interesting combination because you'll see a lot of disruption over here, a lot of dissatisfaction with elected officials, as indicated. There's a Venus line running from New Mexico down through Mexico and Baja, California, all the way up through, looks like North and South Dakota, then into Canada. And that Venus line is actually not a bad line. It indicates some concern over women or women's issues, but I think overall from this combination, this isn't bad. This isn't a bad line. It's also over western Mexico, so this can create some problems with wealth or money for this part of the country. But I think actually you'll start to see maybe even oil fields start to regenerate again. But maybe some water problems over this part of the country. You have a Mercury line going over Texas and as far north as Michigan and Wisconsin. And that to me indicates a lot more reporting, a lot more news coverage in that part of the country. And since there's a Jupiter line, they'll be connected with government or ethical behavior. And Jupiter's intersecting Mercury very strongly around Louisiana too. There's a moon line running through, so the United States is pretty active this month. There's a moon line running up through Ohio and sort of like going over the East Coast, and a sun line. So that indicates the interests of the people and the government not coinciding. So there'll be this lack of faith in government happening over the next couple of weeks or so. And let's see, now there's a sun line. This is ascending sun line here, and there's a Mars line. So you'll probably see some aggressive activity around between New York and Washington in terms of the government. This looks like kind of a dangerous time, and I think you will see some assassination attempts, if not now, then later on this summertime. And this also holds true in Cuba. It looks like Haiti, Dominican Republic, and also down into Colombia, Venezuela, Chile, and Peru, okay, and Argentina, parts of Argentina. And there's a Rahu line going through Brazil again. Brazil has not had an easy time of it over the past few months. And there's a Saturn line going over it. So the Brazilian economy is going to be in a little bit of trouble. There's a Venus line going through close to Brazil, so that does indicate some light at the end of the tunnel, but we have a Mercury line, so we're going to hear some more news about Iceland and Iceland's economy. The other thing is we have a Mercury line running through, definitely some more news about Iceland. Europe, Sun, Mars, conjunction, a lot of violence in England, Western England, and Scotland, and also France, and Western Spain, and Northern Africa, and all the way through Southern Africa. And over here you have a Rahu line going over Norway and through Middle Europe. So you'll see them sort of panicking about either disease or else governmental laws or rules. And this runs all the way down to Egypt, goes over into Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia will be heavily involved in these issues over the next few months. And there'll be a desire for reform, especially going all the way through Russia and Ukraine. Ukraine has problems as well. I'm not saying they're an evil country like some people are saying, but they have problems as well. And I actually think they're going to get beaten in this war um, because a lot of the enthusiasm on the West seems to be damping down. The moon is passing over Rahu, so this looks like a panic time. Well, let's look at Turkey for a second. Turkey has a Venus line going over it, so floods or possibly earthquakes, but more like floods in Western Turkey and Syria. And Rahu line is going through Iran. So Iran is going to have some more fanaticism, some more displeasure with the government. And finally, as we go over to there's a Moon Mars line. There's some violence, some possibility of violence between Iran and Afghanistan, which I'm not sure. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but that's what the line is saying. Some violence on those borders. And finally, we have a sun and the moon line going over India. So again, problems with the government, especially in Delhi. And there's a Jupiter line going over China. China is finally resolving some of its problems right now, but it still wants everything to be perfect. So that's going to screw it up a little bit. And so does Vietnam. Vietnam wants everything to be perfect, no problems, no diseases, nothing. So I think you're going to see that part of the world struggle just a little bit longer and also get more militaristic. The other line that I want to draw your attention to, the other line is some governmental scandal in Korea and Japan and in Indonesia and Guinea and also Australia. Australia has, so you'll see the planetary lines are much more evenly distributed than in previous months. So there's a lot of activity going on all over the world. And there's a Saturn-Venus conjunction, so Australia may be on the brink of a recession. Trade is being negatively affected by K2 and Libra. That'll continue for about another year. And New Zealand is also having some problems maintaining its optimism just because of where things are this week. Never fear, it'll improve actually over the next couple of weeks. So the next forecast I give you will be much more buoyant, much more upbeat than this one is. Okay. There are actually some good times coming, especially over the next month or so. Now, if you look at individual signs, and I've only got a few minutes to go through 12 signs, so I'm going to do a minute per sign. All right. Let me get this up again. Keep closing the share one. I want to really just close this window. All right. So Aries, kind of aggressive this month. More focus on money and financial strength. Its confidence will start to, or this week, its confidence will start to improve, and its career life will be extraordinarily stressful, but good financial gains for this sign. Taurus, Venus Moon conjunction, very good for attractiveness, for appeal. That's a good combination. Mars and Rahu are in the 12th house, so bad for relationship life and a lot of dissatisfaction with relationship life. A lot of fights with relationship partners. Sun's in the second house. This sign will expect to be listened to or followed without question. And see now, am I sharing? Am I actually sharing with you? I don't know if I am, honestly. See now. All right. So let me just start that again. Stop the share. Share. All right. So we should be sharing now. But a lot of work activity, a lot of work responsibility. Gemini has a very good combination here for saving money. It'll be more famous overseas than it is at home. Some disappointment or rivalry with friends. Jupiter's in the 10th house, though, and Saturn's in the 9th house. So hard work paying off. Essentially a lot of activity in that direction, paying off. Moon is Lord of the second and the 12th, so the person will be spending a lot of money on their appearance. That sort of like goes with the general promise or attitude of Gemini, at least in Vedic astrology. And Ketu's in the 5th house. Some unexpected luck. It'll be slow, but it'll be unexpected. Saturn is still aspecting that sign, so they'll have to work very hard for luck. But they will get a lot of money this month. That's actually the good thing. And Cancer has Lord of the second and the 12th. So that means there'll be a lot of focus on travel, a lot of focus on friendships, good times with friends, dissatisfaction with career, and overall a lot of good luck happening with the sign. But relationship partners will be a little bit discouraging or disappointing. Leo has the Lord in the 11th house. Saturn is still in the 7th house. It's going to go back to the 6th house. So this indicates problems with spouse or relationship partner. Ketu's in the 3rd house. This particular combination indicates this sign will be pretty fearless, as we said before. And Jupiter's in the 8th house, so there'll be unexpected gains of money or income. Mars and Rahu are in the 9th house, the best planet for this particular rising sign. It'll be amped up or put on steroids. So this sign, and also Cancer, will be relatively fearless this month. They'll be very aggressive. So this is a good month for Leo. For Virgo has its Lord Mercury in the 9th house. Has a very good combination, gives a lot of luck for this sun sign. There's a lot of focus on career this month, so this sign is going to be very strongly focused on career. Some worry about friendships, though, and friendships may be leaving or departing, to make way for new ones and for new goals. K2's in the 2nd house, a little bit tough for money accumulation, but not impossible. And Saturn will be moving back into Capricorn on July 2nd, so that will suppress money a little bit as well. But it'll give money from property. And let's see now, Jupiter's in the 7th house. Great for meeting opportunities, great for dating opportunities, great for meeting new people. Just don't get that serious about anybody for about a year. That's really what I'm telling almost everybody. Mars and Rahu are in the 8th house. There can be some victimization from relationship partners, or relationship partners will seem very pushy. Venus is in the 9th house, gained from teaching, writing, educating. All right, so that's very good. For Libra's Lord is in the 8th house, so there's a lot of interest in behind the scenes stuff and in investigation, in occultism, if you're so inclined in that direction. Mars and Rahu are in the 7th house. They'll be a strong desire to almost be alone relationship-wise. Jupiter's in the 6th house, almost no enemy that you can't overcome. Saturn's in the 5th. It'll give, and in the 4th, so it'll give more ties to home life, more ties to emotional matters, but it'll be more responsibility for this sign. And also, from this chart, you'll start to see some very profound light coming to the sign over the next couple of months. So this sign is going through a kind of a rough period right now, but you'll see a lot of improvement, especially within 10 days, and again within about another 20 days or so. The other sign, Scorpio, has Venus and Moon and Mercury in the 7th house. So it's kind of good time for this sign to get together relationship-wise. It looks very attractive. The sun's in the 8th house. Also, Libra looks very attractive to people because Venus, Moon, and Mercury are in the 8th house. So it's not really an illusion. This chart does have some sex appeal, but it's really not sure what it was. Scorpio has, going back to Scorpio's second house and 5th house Lord is in the 5th house, so it should be good for money. It'll make the sign very competitive as well because Mars is in the 6th house. Venus, Moon, Mercury, you'll have too many relationship partners to choose from. From Sagittarius, Lord is in the 4th house, a lot of focus on education. Saturn aspecting Mars, maybe looking a little bit too much for the perfect man or woman. That'll shift within about a week or so. And Venus is in the 6th house with the Moon and Mercury, so again, kind of difficult to establish a relationship life with that kind of a pattern. Sun's in the 7th house, so you'll be a little bit afraid or a little bit overwhelmed by relationship opportunities. For Capricorn, the Lord of Capricorn is going to be either in the 1st house or the 2nd house, and that's good for taking control or leading people. And Jupiter's in this is in the 3rd house, good for diplomatic skills. Mars and Rahu are in the 4th house, good for economic gain, and especially for property. And Venus and Moon are in the 5th house with the Sun in the 6th house. So that's going to give some romantic possibilities to the sign. For Aquarius has Jupiter in the 2nd house, has a lot of authority right now. Jupiter's in the 2nd house, Mars is in the 3rd house. A lot of ambition, a lot less fearfulness than before. Venus and Moon and Mercury in the 4th house, so that's good for property matters or money matters connected with property. And Sun's in the 5th house, so that'll make a person very attractive to the opposite sex, and they'll be very focused on relationship life. So that's not a bad thing. Now, for the last sign, we have Pisces. Pisces has Jupiter in the 1st house. That's a great personality yoga. Hamsa yoga, this sign will seem to know a lot, will seem to be able to do a lot. Mars and Rahu are in the 2nd house, will be very forceful in his way of speaking. And I have to check my time. And Venus and Moon are in the 3rd house, so very skilled at negotiating, very skilled at getting what it wants without really a lot of effort. And Sun's in the 4th house, so this will make the sign very, very strong-willed, very emotional, but it can also give us some health problems, especially connected with the lungs, heart, and stomach. I'm not necessarily saying this person will be ill, but it's something to keep an eye on. And finally, Ketu's in the 8th house, so again, has strong interest in metaphysics or occultism, starts to manifest again. So don't panic about this Mars-Rahu combination like a lot of Vedic astrologers are saying, and don't panic about the outer planets. The outer planets have been doing their work for hundreds of years. Don't worry about it. I have to run because I'm coming close to my time. Namaste. I love you all. Don't be afraid. The best is yet to come. And bye all.